Imagine walking in to the most sacred, heavily guarded institution in your entire nation.
Oh, man.
Right. And you start flipping over the tables of its most powerful leaders.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you absolutely refuse to tell them who gave you the authority to do it.
Just completely stonewalling them.
Exactly. And that is exactly what Jesus did during Holy Week.
Yeah.
And it sparked one of the most, really one of the most intense theological standoffs in history.
It really is. It is the ultimate collision of earthly power and, divine authority.
Yeah.
And it happens at the absolute peak of religious tension in first century Jerusalem. Like, the atmosphere is just electric.
Which is, that's the exact mission of today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're exploring this really fascinating sequence of events from Matthew chapters 21 and 22. And our primary guide for this, the thing driving our discussion, is this really incredible sermon from the Church of 1122.
Yeah, it's a great anchor for the narrative.
It is. It really anchors the whole thing. And to give us the historical and cultural mechanics of what's actually happening, we supplementing that sermon with a stack of commentaries. So we've got sources like the Canvas Community, Grace Church Greeley, and a few academic texts in there too.
Lots of good context.
Yeah, lots of context. So, okay, let's unpack this. Jesus has just made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem on a donkey.
Right.
And he walks right into the temple, which you have to remember, the temple is essentially the central bank, the Supreme Court, and the Holy Sanctuary all rolled into one.
It's the center of the universe for them.
Exactly. And he physically drives out the money changers who were, exploiting the poor with this inflated temple currency.
Yeah.
So obviously the religious elite, the chief priests, and the elders, they are furious.
Oh, absolutely.
So they march right up to him and they demand, they say, by what authority are you doing these things?
Well, and the thing is, their question, it is not a genuine pursuit of the truth.
No, not at all.
It is a highly coordinated trap. Because the temple leadership, they control the theology, right? And they control social order.
Yeah.
So if Jesus claims his authority comes directly from God, they will have him arrested for blasphemy on the spot, like right there.
Game over.
Game over. But if he says it comes from himself or just, human authority, they will dismiss him as a lunatic, or worse, hand him over to the Romans as an insurrectionist.
Because the Romans don't play around with it.
Exactly. So it's a binary trap.
Yeah, and I love how the 1122 sermon frames Jesus' reaction to this trap. Because the pastor uses this brilliant modern analogy. He says that Jesus answering these religious leaders directly, it would be like trying to argue with trolls on the internet today.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you just don't do it. The quote from the sermon, which I just love, is it's like wrestling a pig. Everybody gets dirty and the pig likes it.
That is it paints a very visceral picture.
It really does.
And it perfectly captures the futility of engaging with bad faith actors. The Working Preacher commentary highlights this exact dynamic. They pull a quote from the philosopher Voltaire, which is, judge a person by his questions rather than his answers.
Oh, that's good.
Right. And Jesus sees right through their questions. He refuses to step into their trap. So he completely pivots the confrontation.
Sidesteps it.
Exactly. Instead of giving them that binary answer they want, he takes control of the narrative and he delivers these 3 rapid-fire parables of judgment. Just boom, boom, boom.
Right. And according to the 1122 sermon, when Jesus strings 3 stories together back to back like that, it's not just because he likes to hear himself speak.
No.
It is for massive, undeniable emphasis.
Yeah.
So he launches into the first one, the parable of the 2 sons. So a father asks his 2 sons to go work in his vineyard. The first son says, no, I won't. But, later he feels guilty, he changes his mind,
Right.
and he actually goes to work.
Right.
But the second son says, yes, sir, absolutely. But then he never actually shows up.
Classic.
Right. So Jesus looks at these priests and asks, okay, which of the 2 did the will of his father? And they are forced to answer, the first.
Which is just a masterful rhetorical trap. I mean, Jesus literally forces the religious elite to publicly condemn their own behavior out of their own mouths.
Yeah, and the 1122 sermon, they modernized this in a way that just hit me right between the eyes. They compare it to buying a gym membership on January 1st.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. You enthusiastically hand over your credit card. You have all the intentions of the world of getting fit. You officially said yes to the gym.
Yep.
But if you never actually wake up at 5 a.m. to go sweat on the treadmill saying yes, didn't burn a single calorie.
That one.
But I want to dig into the targeting here for a second. Because why does Jesus use this specific metaphor, of a vineyard and these 2 sons to describe the temple leadership? What's the connection?
Well, we have to look at how the hermeneutics of covenantal crisis text analyzes this passage, because they point out that this parable it's really a surgical exposure of a very specific spiritual disease.
Okay.
And that disease is verbal assent without lived obedience.
Wow. Verbal assent without lived obedience.
Right. So the second son, he represents the priests. I mean, think about it. They wore the majestic robes. They had the prestigious titles. They possessed this perfect theological vocabulary.
He looked the part.
They absolutely looked the part. They said yes to God loudly and publicly every single day. But their failure to bear actual spiritual fruit, it proved they were entirely absent from the vineyard. They weren't doing the work.
And that becomes even more glaring when we look at our supplemental text from 1 Timothy 3.
Right.
Because that lays out the biblical standard for leadership.
Right.
A leader is supposed to be blameless, not greedy for money, and someone who actually shepherds people by modeling transformed behavior, not just talking about it.
Yeah, and the contrast there is just staggering, because the establishment in Jerusalem, they had completely monetized worship. They kept God from the marginalized. I mean, they were the absolute antithesis of that 1 Timothy 3 ideal. They were literally the son who smiled to the father's face and then turned his back the exact moment the father walked away.
Yeah. So this first parable, it exposes their hidden hypocrisy.
Yeah.
But Jesus doesn't just, leave them sitting there with that embarrassment. Because their hypocrisy isn't just a passive thing. It's actively destructive.
Yes.
And this logical escalation, it brings us right into the second story, the parable of the wicked tenants.
And this is the moment, this is where the tension shifts from a subtle theological critique to an open declaration of war.
It really is. So he tells the story about a landowner who spares absolutely no expense setting up a vineyard. He plants it, builds a wall around it, carves out a wine press, and then he leases it out to these tenant farmers, and he goes away on a journey.
Standard practice.
Right. But when the harvest comes, he sends his servants to collect his share of the fruit. But the tenants violently attack them. I mean, they beat one, they stone another, and they literally kill a third.
Yeah.
So finally, the landowner sends his own son, assuming surely they will respect my heir. But the tenants see the son, and they realize, hey, this is the heir. If we kill him, we can steal his inheritance.
Which is just wild logic.
So they drag the son out of the vineyard, and they murder him.
So to really understand the explosive nature of this story, we have to look at the economic reality of first century Judea.
Okay.
Tenant farming was extremely common, and absentee landlords were often deeply, deeply resented by the locals who were actually working the land.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, so Jesus is tapping into a very real, very volatile socioeconomic dynamic that everyone in the crowd would recognize.
They'd be nodding along.
Exactly. But the symbolism is what makes it devastating to the leaders. Because the landowner is God. The vineyard is the nation of Israel. The corrupt tenants are the religious leaders who are standing right in front of him.
Right there.
Right there. And the beaten servants, they represent the long line of Old Testament prophets that Israel rejected. And the murdered son, that is Jesus predicting his own imminent execution.
Man. And the 1122 sermon, it leans heavily into this one specific detail of the setup. Because it says the landowner sends his servants when the season for bearing fruit drew near.
Right.
And the sermon emphasizes that for these leaders, the season is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not next year. Jesus is standing in the temple right now, seeking the fruit of their stewardship.
And he finds nothing but violence.
Nothing.
Both the Canvas community and the New Covenant Baptist Church sources, they highlight the historical fallout of what Jesus is declaring here, because he is announcing a massive shift in redemptive history.
How so?
Well, the profound privilege of shepherding God's people, it is being violently ripped away from this corrupt temple establishment. And it is going to be handed over to a new, diverse body, which is the church, a people who will actually produce the fruit the landowner is asking for.
And here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because Jesus finishes this parable about a murdered son. And while everyone is just, reeling from the implications of that, he hits them with a quote from Psalm 118. He says, "The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone."
Yeah.
And our source from the New Covenant Baptist Church, they connect this rejected stone to two massive Old Testament prophecies, one in Daniel 2 and one in Isaiah 8. Jesus says this stone will break to pieces anyone who falls on it, and it will crush anyone it falls upon.
Yeah, that imagery is intense, because in Daniel 2, there is this vision of a rock that is cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands.
Okay.
And it strikes this massive statue that represents all the worldly empires, and it just grinds them to powder.
Just destroys them.
Utterly. So by invoking this specific imagery, Jesus is asserting absolute cosmic supremacy. He is basically telling the priests, you think you are the builders constructing this religious empire,
Right.
and you are tossing me aside as this useless rock, but I am actually the foundation of reality. He's saying, to those who submit, I am the cornerstone of salvation, but to those who rebel, I am the stone of judgment that is going to pulverize your authority.
Okay, hit pause for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had the leaders plotting a murder, a kingdom being ripped away, and a magical stone crushing empires.
Right.
Give me the the Blinkist level breakdown of what this actually means for the average first century person who is standing in the crowd watching this happen. Because honestly, it sounds terrifying.
It does sound terrifying, but this is where the Grace Church Greeley commentary provides the crucial theological key.
Okay.
Because Jesus is certainly predicting his own murder. I mean, he's telling them you are going to kill the son outside the vineyard in just a few days.
Yeah.
But he is simultaneously giving his followers this massive anchor of hope. He is explaining the mechanics of substitutionary atonement before it even happens.
Okay, unpack substitutionary atonement for us. How does a murdered son and a rejected stone equal hope?
So it means his death is not a tragic accident. It is not a failure of God's plan where the bad guys somehow win.
Right.
The stone must be rejected by the builders so that God can use it as the cornerstone for an entirely new foundation. Jesus will substitute his own life, taking the violent judgment that those wicked tenants actually deserve.
Wow.
So that whoever believes in him can be spared. God is literally taking their wicked act of murder and reverse engineering it to bring about the salvation of the world.
That completely flips the script.
Yeah.
I mean, the leaders think they are stealing the inheritance by killing the son, but they are actually just supplying the necessary rejected stone.
Exactly. They're playing right into the plan without even knowing it.
Which, that creates a very compelling causal link to the third parable. Because if the wicked tenants are being evicted and this new cornerstone is being laid, the obvious question is, well, who gets the new invitation?
Right. Who is the new vineyard for?
Exactly. And that brings us to Matthew 22 and the parable of the wedding feast.
And this narrative is entirely designed to illustrate the sheer scandalous nature of divine grace.
It is completely scandalous.
Mm-hmm.
So a king throws a massive wedding feast for his son. He sends his servants to round up all the VIPs, the people who had the original invitations.
Yeah.
But they refuse to come. They literally just shrug it off.
Yeah.
One goes to his farm, another goes to his business, and some of them actually grab the messengers and kill them.
Which is insane.
It's insane. So the king is obviously enraged. He sends his army, destroys those murderers, and burns their city to the ground.
And we should probably pause on that specific detail.
Yeah, please do.
Because burning a city, it feels extreme to modern ears. But in antiquity, rejecting a royal wedding invitation, it wasn't just, oh, I have a scheduling conflict.
Right, washing my hair that night.
Exactly. It was an act of political treason.
Oh, wow.
It signaled open rebellion against the king's heir. So for a first-century audience listening to Jesus, the king's violent retribution against these original rebellious guests, it would make perfect sense to them.
Okay, that context helps a lot. But the feast, it's still fully prepared. So the king tells his servants, go out to the main highways and invite literally anyone you can find.
Just pull them in.
Just pull them in. And the text specifically notes they gathered both bad and good. And the wedding hall was completely packed.
Yeah.
And the 1122 sermon has this fantastic modern framing for this part of the story. The pastor says it sells like the king provides all the logistics. Like you need a ride to the palace, the king sends an Uber,
Yeah.
you need food, he's got a 7-day feast waiting for you, you need a tuxedo.
Mm-hmm.
He provides the garments right there at the door.
Yeah.
You literally bring nothing to the table except your yes.
And it perfectly captures the essence of the gospel going out to the Gentiles, the outcasts, the marginalized.
Yeah.
Because the original invitees, who represent the religious elite, they opted out due to their own arrogance and apathy. So the king opens the doors to the absolute fringes of society. But their entry is based entirely on the king's provision, not their own merit or status.
Right. But okay, I have to push back here for a second. Because there is a plot twist at the very end of this parable that feels, I don't know, incredibly unjust.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the king walks into this packed hall, and he spots a man who isn't wearing a wedding garment.
Right.
The king asks him, hey, how'd you get in here without one? and the guy is speechless. And then the king orders him bound hand and foot and thrown into the outer darkness.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up. The king drags the guy out of an alley and then throws him into outer darkness because he's wearing alley clothes.
It sounds harsh.
On the surface, that sounds like a cruel bait and switch. How do our sources justify that kind of punishment?
So what's fascinating here is how the historical customs of royal weddings completely resolve that tension.
Well,
Because in that era, a king hosting a feast of this magnitude, he did not expect random peasants to have royal attire. That would be absurd.
right.
The king actually provided the wedding garments as a free gift of grace to every single guest as they entered. Yeah. It ensured everyone was appropriately dressed and totally equal in status.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't a dress code the man couldn't afford?
No,
It was a free gift that he actively refused to wear?
precisely. This man took the king's invitation, he ate the king's food, but he refused the king's garment. He chose to wear his own street clothes, trying to get into this royal feast on his own terms.
That changes everything.
It does. He was essentially looking at the king and saying, "My clothes are good enough, I don't need yours."
Wow. So what does this all mean for us, like conceptually?
Well, the commentaries from Speech and Got Questions, they explain this theologically. They note that this wedding garment, it functions identically to the oil of the wise virgins in another one of Jesus's parables.
Okay, let's make sure we don't lose anyone with that reference. Break down that oil concept really quickly.
So in that other story, bridesmaids are waiting for a groom to arrive. Some bring oil to keep their lamps burning, which demonstrates they're actually prepared and actively waiting.
Well-
But others bring no oil at all, showing they didn't really care. So both the oil and the wedding garment, they represent the exact same thing, which is a living, authentic faith that produces actual obedience.
As the 1122 sermon bluntly puts it, it's about surrendering to the lordship of Christ. Like, you can't accept the free Uber ride and eat the free food, but then totally refuse to yield to the king's authority.
Exactly. And this raises an important question about how we define faith today.
Yeah.
The hermeneutics of covenantal crisis points out that this entire three-parable sequence, it hammers the exact same theme from different angles.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Right. The man without the garment, he wanted the benefits of the party, but he didn't want to submit to the king's provision.
Yeah.
He is identical to the son who said yes but never actually worked in the vineyard. And he is identical to the tenants who wanted the vineyard but violently rejected the landowner.
It's all the same guy.
It's the same guy.
And three distinct stories acting as a singular, massive warning against empty religious affiliation.
Yeah.
And the Canvas Community Source, it offers a really helpful framework for how we process this today. They discuss how we live in the tension of the already but not yet kingdom.
And that is a fundamental theological concept.
Yeah.
The kingdom has already been inaugurated through Christ's death and resurrection. The cornerstone has been laid. The feast has officially begun.
Right.
But the final consummation of the kingdom, the ultimate defeat of evil and the restoration of all things, that is not yet here.
It's like a couple who signs their marriage license at the courthouse on a Tuesday.
Okay, yeah.
They are already legally married. The transaction is fully done.
Yeah.
But the big reception with the cake and all the guests isn't until Saturday.
Right.
So the full celebration is not yet realized.
That's a great way to put it.
We're living in that intermediate time. The doors to the banquet hall are wide open. We are the bad and the good being pulled from the highways.
And that reality, it places a profound responsibility on the listener, because examining these three parables, it forces a critical self-diagnosis. You have to ask yourself, are you bearing actual fruit, or are you just offering verbal assent?
Right.
Are you the son who knows all the right theological vocabulary but never actually does the work? Have you truly put on the king's garment, the provided righteousness of Christ? Or are you crashing the party relying on your own merit, your own good deeds, your own street clothes?
Because the consequences of getting that wrong, of relying on your own merit, they are absolute. I mean, the king cast the man into outer darkness.
He does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the supplemental texts from Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah 14, they provide this chilling parallel that drives this warning into cosmic territory.
Okay, what do they say?
Well, those passages describe the fall of Lucifer.
Ah, the anointed guardian cherub.
Yes. Lucifer was created blameless. He was placed on the holy mountain of God. He had ultimate privilege, ultimate proximity to the king, and ultimate beauty.
He had it all.
He had it all. But Ezekiel and Isaiah reveal that his heart became proud on account of his own splendor. He refused to submit to the Creator's design and provision. He declared, I will ascend to heaven. I will make myself like the Most High.
He wanted to be the landowner, not the tenant.
Exactly. Just like the wicked tenants who tried to steal the vineyard.
Yeah.
Just like the religious leaders of Jesus' day who monetized the temple to build their own empire. And just like the man at the wedding feast who refused the king's garment because he thought his own clothes were sufficient.
It's the exact same pride.
It is. Satan was cast out of heaven and brought down to the pit for the exact same reason the wedding guest was cast into outer darkness. Relying on one's own pride, one's own merit, and refusing to submit to the absolute lordship and grace of the king, it always leads to destruction.
Man.
It is the ultimate cosmic warning that self-righteousness is not just a minor flaw. It is the very mechanism of a fall.